I'll now begin the recording. Welcome, everybody, to the 2022 annual meeting of the Peacock Gap Homeowners Association. I'll ask Kimberly to pull up the agenda. And I'll just, we have a very aggressive or full agenda. We're going to really just stick to the highlights, thumbnail sketches, and then we can dig in a little bit deeper after the meeting with people or direct you to the right information, more information, or how to get a hold of us. In just a second, I'll introduce first the board, and then I'll introduce our local council member, Mary Beth Bushy. Larry Andow, our treasurer, will take us through the financials. I will give a great update about the long anticipated 5-year plan to redo the medians that is finally coming to fruition. So there's some great news there. We'll talk about what we've been doing and intend to do as community engagement. A lot of that is built around the Kimberly Arnold inspired Peacock Gap Cares program, which is to unite the neighbors in both in times of need and because we're neighbors. Dariush Davidi will give a little update and some thoughts on some security concerns and possible solutions. We'll talk about architectural review, and then quickly about the newsletter, a little bit about the lagoon, and over the next couple of years, we will be reauthoring our community codicils and regulations, the CC&Rs. So that would be great.
And Mike, I just wanted to suggest if folks aren't talking, if they would mute their line, then we'll minimize any background noise in between.
Yes. That would be that'd be fantastic, and I'll leave that up to everybody as opposed to trying to shut everybody down and turn certain people off. I do want people to have a chance to participate, but we will hold all questions just so we really get the high level view. We'd love to hold all the questions until the end, and then we'll spend as much time as we need to answering them. So first, I'd like to introduce the board. We'll talk briefly about the board election. Every year we do have elections to the board. It is a formal process outlined by our CC&Rs. We don't have contested elections this year. We have board members who are willing to renew and continue to serve, and so that's good news. And we still have at least one empty seat. So although board nominations are closed for this particular election, we are always open to more community members joining the volunteers of the board, being on a committee, being part of this is in any way that you'd like to be. So maybe kind of tough to get everybody's picture so you can see, but I'd like to introduce the board, starting with just on my screen. Kimberly Arnold is the leader of Peacock Gap Cares. John Harrison is one of our lagoon friends and very instrumental in making things happen. Remy Schuler is, I guess we'll just do little waves, that'll be easiest. Dariush Davidi. Larry Andow, who has done an excellent job for many years taking care of the money and making sure we steward it well and save up as much as we can for this great project. And Care Fellows. I believe that, did I miss anybody, guys? And Rosalie Weigel, longtime Peacock Gap legendary realtor, is in England with family, so she can't join us today. And then many of you know, of course, legendary former president of the Peacock Gap HOA, Leo Isotolo, is joining us, or is at least in the audience, and I want to acknowledge him. So, all right, thanks everybody. Let's dive right in and go to the next slide so I can introduce Mary Beth Bushy, our council member. I don't think she needs a lot of introduction, but I think it's really a great opportunity for her to say hello, introduce herself, and this is a great way to stay in contact and participate in local government. Maybe we can put Mary Beth on the screen instead of her.
There we
we go.
We go to speaker view. Mary Beth, thank
There
you
we
so
go.
much.
Hey, good morning, Peacock Gap on this rainy day. We love the rain, but boy, it tends to happen when we want to go somewhere, doesn't it? Very delighted to be here, and I will correct you about having past board members present. I am a past member of the board of the HOA board, courtesy of the aforementioned Leo Isotola. Long story there. I know you've got a busy morning. I don't want to chew up too much of your time. I'm going to start with the one thing I want you to remember. Your esteemed president has a link to the City of San Rafael website. On that link, you can sign up for regular updates on a variety of matters. I highly recommend the snapshot newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter from the city manager, tells everything that's going on in City Hall and gives you all sorts of information and other ways to get involved. Thanks so much, Mike. Go to that website and sign up, and you will never have to listen to me again.
It's in the chat.
Very good. Thanks. Thanks so much, Mike. A couple of quick updates. I think the biggest thing that the city's doing in our exact neighborhood is, of course, rebuilding Fire Station 55. That project is phase 2 of our public safety improvements that we started in 2013. That's when we approved the funds for that project. It of course included the phase 1 was the public safety center downtown. So that was the big one. We're now finishing up that. We expect our Fire Station 55 to be done next year, I think by summer. So we're very excited. There will be a ribbon cutting for that. So I'll make sure that that everyone knows about that. Other updates, the Loch Lomond development continues. Just to give you some history, the City Council approved that in 2007. That project has been underway for 15 years and it's still not done. And it's not going to get done anytime soon. That center area where the housing hasn't started, those have been paused due to financial situation, the housing prices and the cost of money. So they're not going to start building that center section out. That they haven't decided when. There's also 2 modest but significant for our neighborhood commercial buildings that as you enter, if the stoplight is behind you on the right-hand side, there are 2 commercial buildings approved for that area, which are not scheduled for construction. So who knows when those will happen. On the good news side, the kayak launch ramp is up and running, and the trail has been reopened. They had to close it to make some repairs. So that's on the good news side. What the City Council has been doing generally, last Monday night, we did this all in one night. We were there until after 11. We approved our housing element. That includes all of the housing, the theoretical housing sites that we have in San Rafael. Again, it's just theoretical. They're just possible. We're not approving anything specific. So the housing element went off. We approved the project for Aldersley, which is going to be a fantastic improvement to the site. However, because of the tight fit of that site in our neighborhoods, it's going to require some construction lane closures on Mission. They'll be getting the news out to us on those when those are happening. So over the next year, they're going to be working on phase 1, and that's going to probably impact some of our traffic things. The last thing we did Monday night was approve the Marin sanitary rates for next year. Spoiler alert, they're going up relatively modest, about 7%. So that's a quick rundown in what's going on. Again, that link in the chat is where you can get set up to get updates on everything that the city is up to. Mike, can I also ask you to put in the chat my email address at the city, so you can feel free to email me if you have any questions.
I will put that in the chat in just a moment, and the links for those who are watching on replay will be on the website somewhere, hopefully around the video player that you're watching. So thank you, Mary Beth. Fantastic. And let's go back to the presentation. And like to hear, hey, speaking of good news, we've been squirreling away money for quite a few years in anticipation of a big project and for a number of reasons, and then COVID. And Larry's so we're in darn good shape. And Larry Andow, our treasurer, is going to give us the highlights. Of course, the financials in detail are always available on the website. We post links that you can find. So Larry, thank you so much. Let's see if we can't get Larry into speaker view.
Oops.
Got it.
Good morning. There we go. So let me bring up the financials here, and I'm going to share my screen, I think, right? Share screen, and there we go. So as Mike said, we have been saving up for several years to fund a major project to upgrade the medians that I think all of us would agree are in a pretty poor shape. And so every year we've been allocating for the medians. So if you look at this spreadsheet, it will show you the income for the last 3 years, 2021 and this year. Specifically looking at about the, fourth column over where it says approved 2022 budget. You'll notice that at the very bottom here, I think I can, highlight that. We had $60,000 that we had allocated for the medians to improve them and beautify that area. And then if you look to the next column to the right, that is the actual expenditure to date. We have not expended any of that money, obviously. So we currently have a positive addition to our net assets of about $18,000 to date, which when we look at the balance sheet puts us at about $160,000 in cash in our bank account at this point. That said, and we will talk about this in a moment, going back to the projected budget for 2023, we have allocated $130,000 for the upgrade of the medians. That will be the major expenditure for next year. But we have also allocated money for community events and safety improvements and the website, all of the things that we as an HOA continue to fund, because we think that that's part of what we need to do for this community. And it is part of our charge at this time. And so that's our budget for 2023. And I think this will do well to move to our next subject, which is really talking about what that $130,000 towards the medians will be doing. So well, again, we'll take questions at the end, but if you have any questions, please hold them and we'll get back to you on that. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that very much. And let me give a kind of a overview of where we are on the median project. For starters, I know there's been some interest. We are absolutely keeping the olive trees. And although it seems like an unlikely day to talk about the drought, I think we're all sold on the idea that the drought is not necessarily going away. And so we have been planning for those sort of plantings. So we're looking to use much less water, spend less money on upkeep. So the new medians will be a little bit of a good amount of plants and green mixed with some rock feature and some grasses. So we will, and some succulents. So it's really going to be very nice. The cost of doing this goes back almost to the starting almost to the founding of the development. The medians were the medians need new dirt, essentially. So there's 10 or more years ago, 15 years ago, I think it might be at this time, there was some remediation done to the medians and some new plantings. What we've discovered is that we need to really dig out all that old stuff and put in some good dirt, get some good dirt around the root of the olive trees, do some restoration, and then do some great planting. So we have terrific landscape designer, Michael Alvarado, who actually lives not in our development, but along the Point San Pedro Road corridor, very invested in the project. And we are, I'd actually hope to have it really underway by now, but construction and stuff never goes according to plan. But we will, we're certainly looking to have shovels in the dirt before the new year. So this has been something we've been talking about saving for more than 5 years. And it's a project that we really look to have the impact of the restoration and rejuvenation will be good for 15 or 20 years. And we really look to have this be something we can admire for a decade. So feels like a major investment, and it is. And that kind of speaks to the sort of HOA that this is. If you waste as much time on the internet as I do, you've probably seen a lot of the memes about the crazy HOA rules and enforcement and all this negative stuff. We're not that kind of group. We're not that kind of neighborhood. Our job as an HOA is to facilitate conversations between neighbors when it comes to how the house looks and how stuff is going, and also to care for our common spaces. The median's technically owned by the city. There's no money to take care of them, so we long ago agreed to take care of them. But the HOA owns no community pool or property, so our job is to steward the money the best we can and invest it in community as opposed to anything else. So I hope that kind of makes sense. We have, of course, have a committee that's been doing this. We've been long inviting people, and this is a board that's very open to new participation. If you had told me years ago that I'd be the president of an HOA, let alone on the HOA, I would have said you're crazy, but this is really fun. We get some stuff done. It's very little work, and we welcome some, we have a lot of new folks moving into our neighborhood who will be here for as many decades as the other folks have, and we look forward to making this even better every year. So that's the update there. I'm available to answer any specific questions, of course. And so speaking of community engagement, I would like to introduce Care Fellows to talk about the Welcome Committee and how we're meeting new folks and welcoming them to the community. Hello, Care.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Happy to see some new faces on this morning, and we'll follow up with people that weren't able to get in. But I wanted to share a little bit about the Welcome Committee. It's long been a tenet of the Homeowners Association to have a formal welcome for new members to meet someone face to face, but also to provide a gift and to make a connection to start building community with our new neighbors. So since the inception in 2021, we've now formally welcomed about 50 homeowners. And this has been through a process of formalizing a gift, sending a volunteer to their door with some welcome materials to formally welcome the new neighbor. We are entirely volunteer. We have some members that help with distributing gifts that are on the board as well as not on the board. For those of you on the call that haven't received your gift, we do increments. Sometimes it's as much as 3 months since your closing. So do expect someone to be at your door. Sometimes we will come a few times if you don't answer the door, because we do want to introduce ourselves and to give you a gift in person. And that's it. It's a very positive group. We are happy to be meeting all of our new neighbors. And we estimate about 20 to 25 new houses, but sometimes, certain times of year, there are a lot of closings, sometimes there's not. And we welcome participation if you're interested in welcoming your new neighbors.
I think you've done such a great job on the welcome gift. You should sell that in a little bit because it's kind of a big hit.
Wow.
It's a custom cutting board.
Yes.
I guess that changes. I shouldn't jump in here, but I think it's been it's so cool.
Yeah. So we have a custom cutting board with your new address on it. And we discussed the gifts and potentially rotating them, but that's our current gift.
They're cool enough that I want to buy my own because I'm not a new homeowner and we don't get a free one. All right. Then up care. I'd like to introduce Darius Davidi, who has been instrumental in some of our neighborhood events, and we'll talk about what's coming up.
Good morning. It's nice to be with you all. Thank you, Kerr. Speaking of new neighbors, neighborhood barbecue, it's a great opportunity for new and old members to come in a gathering of a block party, of a neighborhood party. This is a cross-generational gathering where we see young kids, older folks, active, non-active, anyone is welcome to join. It's really a nice way to get to know your neighbor next door. And also, we've been really pleased with the participation of Station 55. Last year, we had the actual firemen show up. They parked their trucks. It was a very interactive experience for the kids. They even brought out the, kind of stuff you see in the movies. They brought out the hose where the kids were able to hold the hose and get an experience. They were passing out, fire hats and stuff like that. So we're planning our next one in late May. And look for some communication as far as the exact date. But this has been one of our exciting events that we've had.
And we are excellent hot dog and sausage cookers, so we got
Yes.
that going for us. And we'd be happy to have some others help us with the grill work in that. Movie nights are up next. And I apologize for not remembering who's going to talk about movie nights. I think that is Remy. Is that right?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Sorry about that.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Movie nights. So we've done two. One was hosted by the HOA and put on by the HOA with direction from Catherine Newhall, which she is a former board member. I don't know if she's on the call today, but she organized it and she's said that she wants to do it again in the future. It was a lot of fun. It was really successful. A lot of people came out and it was, just a lot of fun. And so far we've only done family-friendly movies, but we've talked about maybe in the summer months doing something later, doing more like classics and stuff like that. The city also does their own summertime movie in the park series. So we promote that as well, although we don't have any direct involvement in it. And yeah, these were just a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll be doing more in the future.
Yeah. For those who couldn't come out, it's basically we put up one of those giant inflatable movie screens with help from the guy who owns the pizza place in San Anselmo. Doggone it, I'm drawing a blank on that.
Creekside Pizza?
Yes, Creekside Pizza in San Anselmo. His name is Pat Toomey, and he's a terrific guy. He helped us out a lot. And so we're looking forward to doing more of this, both our own and then tagging on with the city. So that's great, Remy. And then there's other community events. Tell us about the Weed Pull Chipper Days.
Okay, so the Chipper Days are done by Fire Safe Marin, which is the agency that we all voted for a couple years ago that we pay on that property tax for. So it's a free service and it's really easy. You just go online and you reserve a spot. You search by your address. It gives you the date. I think they did it in this last year at least 3 times that I'm aware of. The last one was in late November, and we had here at our house a huge pot, like we literally cut down an entire tree, chopped it up, and they took it all away, and it's free. So please utilize this service so they keep doing it, because it's really great. And the weed pull days are done locally, like around the neighborhood. We have a lot of invasive species that need to be kept under control to mitigate the fire risk. And so as neighbors, we get together and do that for ourselves.
Yep, that's sort of led by the Point St. Pedro Road Coalition. And the first one 3 years ago pulled out 3 or 4 giant coffin boxes, those big boxes from Marin Sanitary of French broom, Scotch broom, poison oak. I mean, it's really excellent. And this shot that you see on the screen is down there as you come in, right by China Camp. That's the entrance right by China Camp, which used to be completely overgrown by poison oak, and is looking really good. So great, thank you. And I don't know if Mary Beth is still on the call, but I would have to say that this Chipper Day, Fire Safe Marin stuff is an absolute, very effective use of taxpayer dollars and really efficient. We've removed tons and tons and tons of wildfire fuel from our neighborhoods. And I am definitely not one to laud the efficient spending of government, but this is a case where it's really, really good. So great work there. And great work in community also. Kimberly Arnold has been a great board member, has put together with the help of Carolyn Rosenblatt and others, the Peacock Gap Cares concept and group. So Kimberly, would you tell us more about this?
Yes, thank you, Mike. So I think really I wanted to give a head nod to Larry Andow, because I think he started us off in 2019 when we did our first community disaster preparedness survey. And from that, we had, about 1/3 of the homes respond. And of those, when we asked people if we had an emergency and needed to evacuate, would you need help? Almost 1/4 of the people who responded said that they would need help. And the good news is that the other 75% of the people said they were willing to help. And that was really the impetus for us creating what we now call the Peacock Gap Cares program. CARES standing for Community Alert, Responsible for Everyone's Safety. And really the point of this is, let's say we had weather like today, but it got more severe and the power went out and people needed support. Or let's say something else crazy happened and we suddenly had flooding and we needed to evacuate. The purpose of CARES is for that extra insurance of supporting our neighbors if we really did have something happen in case of emergency. And so what we have available now, and this is really thanks to the work of a committee, as you said, Carolyn Rosenblatt's been a part of that, Bonnie Harrison, Deborah Warren, and Larry and Mike previously were also part of that. And what we've been doing collectively is gathering information so that we could make it easy for you to organize in small groups that we call pods. And the idea is that you would just connect with 2 to 3 or 4 other homes that are immediately right in your area. And what we have available for you, first off, we have available evacuation checklists. So if you wanted a reference of, okay, if I had to evacuate, what should I consider? We have checklists for you about that. We also have available evacuation cards. This can really make a huge difference for the public officials to know if somebody's evacuated their space or not. But in organizing your actual group, we have a very simple little brochure that just explains the idea of what this is all about. Again, it's as simple as knocking on your neighbor's door and sharing any information with them about anything in particular that you might need if we had to evacuate. Does anybody have any special needs? Do they need to take any equipment with them? It's just very basic things that we would want to know in case of an emergency. But what we're looking for right now are more folks to really serve as pod leaders Again, it's just getting to know a handful of neighbors nearby. It may take knocking on the door and saying hello to get it started, and then hopefully we never use it again. Hopefully we don't actually ever have to do anything beyond that. But we've all thought it would be nice to have those connections in case of an emergency, as well as it's just nice in case, you know, somebody's sick and needs you to run to the store. Like it's just really helping us be neighborly and supporting each other. So we do have that program featured on the website. You can read more about it. And if you're interested in being a pod leader, if you're new to the neighborhood, it's a great way to get to know your neighbors. And so we do want to encourage you to keep in touch with us. And so you can go to the Peacock Gap, HOA.org is our current website. You can fill out the contact sheet there. We are trying to, as sort of Mike indicated a little bit, we are trying to shift to more electronic communications in this current day and age. We don't automatically get email addresses from folks when they come into the neighborhood. So we are actively trying to collect those, as well as cell phone numbers, only to be used, again, for this kind of communication. And we also want to encourage folks, if you're new to the neighborhood, to join Nextdoor. We also have a Peacock Gap sort of members only group on Nextdoor, and we want to encourage you to go there as well. And we'll take any more questions about this later in today's session. And with that, I think I'm going to pass it over to Dariush to talk about security.
Thank you, Kimberly, for that amazing report. Speaking of community safety, I'm sure security is something that's on everyone's mind. We are exploring with different security options, security cameras. The city of San Rafael will start in 2023 next year to install license plate reading cameras at several points in San Rafael. We like to start a collaboration initially with the city to see if we can have them also install one of these cameras at one of our major roads that leads to Peacock Gap or leads out. This would be a initial phase. Something we're exploring, but we're excited to see if we can get the city to install one of these cameras. That is our plan A. If anyone has any questions at the end, happy to take them. With that said, I'll throw it back to Mike.
Sure. We have to balance some concerns for security. There have been some break-ins in the neighborhood. Peacock Estates has had a few, and up on San Marino as well. That said, this is if not one of the two lowest crime neighborhoods in the county, or in the city at least, sorry. So we're in good shape, but there is always opportunity to be a little bit more secure, whether that's license plate readers, more participation with Ring cameras. But basically, this is sort of part and parcel with the CARES project. The more we know our neighbors, the more we know what's going on, the better we all are. So this is a new and evolving project. Thank you very much, Dariush. Very useful. And anyone want to participate in that, please get a hold of Dariush. And I'd like to introduce Care Fellows, who with Rosalie Weigel leads up our architectural review operation, such that it is.
Hi, everyone, again. So I just want to speak briefly on architectural review. This is a CCNR designated role of the HOA to review major changes that your fellow homeowners are doing to their homes. This includes large exterior projects are the most common, changes in color, changes in fencing. You can imagine the sort of things that could happen that would be disturbing for you or for your neighbor or for the neighborhood. So it's really to ensure that those things don't happen and to ensure collaboration between homeowners. The CCNRs do designate the topics that are enforced by the HOA, and so they are posted. Common things are setbacks and construction fencing, walls, hedges, driveways, major changes that affect the drive-by experience in Peacock Gap to ensure there's consistency, as well as neighbor to neighbor home materials, using roofing changes, those sorts of major things. The Architectural Review Committee is a small committee. We're always looking for individuals to join us to approve our timeliness of responding. In general, we review about once a month. It does not require a lot of time. You're just reviewing the CCNRs and ensuring that that requests are responded to in communication with the homeowner. So we certainly welcome participation from the HOA members, and there will be changes coming on the website. There are, in fact, today some changes with the website form to standardize the submission process. So look for that in the future as we digitize and move more things online to have more organization there, as well as whenever we'll speak to it further, the CCNRs are reapproved to see some more clarity in our architectural review process and those guidelines from some dated original documents. That's it.
Perfect. And I think this kind of speaks to, if you back up just a second on the slide, this does speak to the Architectural Review Committee. There are rules in the CCNRs and guidelines, and it also seems that people who have the style and taste to move into our neighborhood also have the style and taste to have a really great home. So we're not in the business of, rah, rah, rah. We're in the business of helping people communicate with their neighbors, make sure that they're within the guidelines, that everything looks terrific. But mostly we're in the business of communicating with the neighbors, because that's really what it's all about. So thanks very much. Thanks very much for that, Care and Rosalie in absentia. Another great way we have been working to communicate is with the newsletter and the website. And we are hopefully having some new folks join us to kick the new website effort. This is not the new website into gear. So I hope that in the next 60 days, we already have the domain, will be a lot easier. PGHOA.org is going to be easier for folks to navigate to. And we want to move to a place where we can have some more real-time communication. You can easily get access to stuff you need, information, forms, updates. So that is evolving. The newsletters, I hope you see them. We don't get that much mail anymore as we once did. So hopefully these are useful in keeping people kind of connected. I did have the stunning realization the other day that my first involvement with a homeowners association was when I was 10 years old, and I delivered our HOA newsletter door to door with my little hand in Brooklyn. And the fact that I'm still doing it is pretty amusing. That said, we'd love contributions to it, and we'd love any kind of feedback, because it's a group of volunteers doing the best we can. Not too many typos, but it is what it is. So I hope you find it useful. And it's a good way of keeping people in touch with kind of what we're doing. And speaking of kind of what we're doing, let's talk a little bit about the successes that the community has had on its own. John Harrison's going to give us a quick update on the lagoon. John, welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mike. So a couple of years ago, I got involved in trying to do something to improve the water quality of the lagoon. It had been going down steadily since its inception about 60 years ago. To help with this, I found out that Sean Barron was very interested in supporting this, and he and I went to visit with the city streets department, and they were very receptive. The only thing was they needed money. They didn't have the money to do it. So Sean, bless his heart, agreed to underwrite the effort. We hired an engineering firm to do a survey and study of the lagoon. They recommended installing a nano bubbler, and because the dissolved oxygen levels in the lagoon were very, very low, it was getting to the point where algae was growing and a lot of rotting biomass in the bottom of it. Anyway, we followed up on that. Sean agreed to buy the nano bubbler and apply periodic macrobiotics, which is something that helps break down the biomass. And remarkably, within several months, the water quality started to greatly improve. This was, as I said, about a year and a half ago. This past year, I don't know, those of you who were on the lagoon, I'm sure will realize that it's been much, much better this past year, and it continues to get better. And so kudos to Sean for underwriting this. He did form a Friends of the Peacock Gap Lagoon fund, and anyone interested in helping pay for it are welcome to make donations. Sean actively sought some contributions last year. He did not do it this year, but I'm sure he would still be interested in having anybody else contribute if they're interested. But he's continuing to pay for the upgrade and maintenance of the periodic application of macrobiotics, and we're all very grateful to Sean and his leadership in helping make this happen.
We are indeed. It's a great example of people banding together and getting something done, essentially on their own. This was certainly much talked about at HOA meetings, but we didn't have to write a check for it, participate financially, do anything but cheer John and well, Sean, let's say Sean and John on. So thank you for that great effort. And speaking of great efforts, pretty much the last thing on the agenda today, which is a little bit of a future pacing. It is time to update the CCNRs, as you can see, and these photographs really do them justice because they're actually more antique looking and feeling than these. The CCNRs were first created. These are the kind of the rules, regulations, and guidelines for the community. They were created in 1960. So it's time to update them. There's some things that just make sense to change. According to this document, all the houses should be painted in earth tones and stuff like that. So there's just stuff that's dated. We will be going, some years back, there was a little bit of a process to reorganize them, and we are going to make a few changes to those, just some updates, and we'll provide a kind of a list of, hey, here's what it was like and here's what it's like now. We want to get community buy-in, obviously. We don't want to, we need to. It's a voting process that will set the tone and the course of Peacock Gap for another couple of decades. So not very restrictive. So the idea of restrictions is pretty loose, but so that's a project we'll be undertaking and welcome participation in over the next 2 years. And so more on that as we move along. And I believe that said, that wraps up our presentation such that it was for today. And we would love to open up if anyone has questions, comments, thoughts. I'll make my contact information. The best way to probably contact the board in general is info@peacockgaphoa.org. We have a lot of fingers on that email. That's probably the quickest way to get a hold of anyone on the board if you want to participate in some way, if you'd like to be on a committee, if you'd like to offer a bunch of feedback, whatever it is, that's how to find us. So if I think everybody is muted themselves. So if anyone has a question, comment, I would be happy to entertain such a thing as I try to get Mary Beth's email here. She asked me to add it to the chat. And I'll let Kimberly help people unmute themselves if anyone has a question. I'd love to hear it. Seeing none, I guess that means everybody's super happy. To be clear, we're happy to see Jesse and Melissa here on the call, because when I talk about free blood, hopefully we have already set the hook for them to rope them in. I have to say, this is a slippery slope. Mary Beth was lured into the board by Leo decades ago. She served time on the board that gave her other city. She was on the planning board for a number of years. She served this organization for over a decade, along with Leo, I think, has served for 2 decades. And now Mary Beth has gone on to be part of City Hall leadership. So it's a slippery slope, this community involvement in making the world a better place stuff, but we have open arms for all. And that's where we are.
So then I think we can say thanks to everybody for coming and joining us for today. Feel free again to drop in email addresses, any other comments in the chat, and we will send you off hopefully for a relaxing weekend.
You got it. Well, thanks, everybody. And I'm going to, we'll make sure we have a replay of this up on the website as soon as we can. And along with the links that Mary Beth mentioned and another link on how to get a hold of folks. So we look forward to a happy, prosperous, and beautiful new year. Thanks for joining us. I did get a couple of questions why we didn't meet at the golf club. In years past, we have done a lovely breakfast, and unfortunately, the golf club wasn't able to accommodate us at a reasonable level. The best I could get from them was $78 per head for scrambled eggs for a 2-hour breakfast meeting. And I didn't think that that was a reasonable stewardship of our money. Next year, if we can't do any better, I'll have the meeting in my backyard. So we all like having the golf club as a neighbor, and maybe they'll like us next year. It'll be new management by them anyway. So super great. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. This is I've lived in many, many places around the country in my life, and this is the best. So I hope one day to be staring at the screen just like Leo when they said, this idiot was our president 20 years ago. So I'm super excited and grateful to be here. So nice to meet you all. Nice to see you all. Have a great day.